Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Great Mondays Radio. Lots of adversity. We've been talking about it on the program a lot. A lot of things blowing in the opposite direction. I feel challenging us in this very unstable, I think, very tumultuous decade is what I think we're going to watch and watch out for. And today we have on the program a gentleman who is known as the Doctor of Happiness, and he advises leaders, executives, and businesses on passion, purpose, possibility, and how to overcome adversity with a mindset shift. And we're going to pepper him with questions and learn his methodologies. Dr. Alan Lycka, welcome to Great Mondays Radio.
Josh Levine, it is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things before we got started, we were talking about is how this idea of adversity. I asked you, what are you seeing with your clients and with your talks, and you're going around the world giving these talks, and people are asking you and bringing up this idea of adversity and coming to you and saying, I have just got all of these problems, and it is just slowing me down. And I wondered if you could reflect on why you think adversity is sort of emergent in your the people that you talk to, and what are we how are they, what are they talking about when they're talking about adversity?
You know, it's interesting times. So the Chinese have a curse, may you live in interesting times, and we are
Right,
in those times
we
right now.
are.
Now, I don't know if it's any worse than it's been throughout our history. I mean, we've had two world wars, we've had the Vietnam War, we've had the Korean crisis, we've had the Cuban Missile Crisis, we've had all sorts of problems that have gone on. But you know, it's in our face all the time. It's
Yeah.
24/7 on the internet now. And you know, it's really this got this megaphone that's blaring in our ears. I remember a few years ago when CNN was literally saying the world's going to end every minute when we went through the dot-com crisis.
Breaking news, the
Right.
chyron across the bottom, it's always breaking news, and it's like it can't always be breaking news.
Well, exactly. But who's going to pay attention to it if it's not breaking news?
Exactly.
I mean, it's gone on and on and on. And it's actually to the point you got to turn off that noise. And I tell people, first just breathe. Learn the square breathing technique.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Breathe in for 3 to 5 seconds, hold it for 3 to 5 seconds, and breathe out for 3 to 5 seconds. That resets your brain
I'm
to
doing it
the
right now.
point that you literally can think. This is what's taught to soldiers in the field when people are attacking them. And that allows them an immense sense of power to overcome any adversity. That really is something that people have to do. Get control, get your upper brain into the situation.
Mm-hmm.
95% of what we fear never comes true. 4% comes true, but it's much less than we thought it was. And the 1% that comes true teaches us a valuable lesson so we don't go there again. So, fear is something that a true leader uses to guide them, not destroy them. In a true storm, a leader literally uses that to redefine themselves and their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They help that to bring their team together and allows them to get to another level. It's funny that some of the biggest companies we have right now were founded in some of those storms. Apple was founded in one of the great recessions. And look where it is now because it didn't listen to the stuff that was went on, Steve Jobs was fired from head of Apple. Now, that taught him a valuable lesson. He taught him that you had to lead in a different way than what he did. But he then went to a movie studio, founded one of the best movie studios of all time,
Mm-hmm.
and went back to Apple, and Apple asked him to lead them.
Yeah. The connection between the fear and what you're saying is that most of those fears don't come true. And then the adversity, I think we think of, and maybe I don't know if this is the way you think about it, but adversity is actually the thing that's happening, right? So we're fearful of what might happen and are confronted by things that are happening when you are considering this moment of the the difference between how do you parse here's my question, how do you parse what is a fear and what is truly something you have to deal with?
What I think about as a true thing that you have to fear about is something that's going to kill you. You really have to, when a lion's chasing you in the jungle, you
Yeah.
better pay attention because there's no tomorrow if you don't pay attention to that, right? So you really need to pay attention to that. Anything short of that is really our bodies reacting to it and our brain getting out of control. And, as soon as we're under a stressful situation, we activate the flight, fight, freeze reaction. So, literally, our brain goes into that mode and we have to get out of it because it really doesn't help us to be in that situation all the time. I love a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
fought reading that book for years because I said, why do you want to read about a person in a prison camp? But what Viktor Frankl showed me that even in a prison camp, you can find meaning and you can find life. He used to joke when one of the prisoner guards would be obnoxious and so on. He say to a colleague, this guy used to be manager of my bank.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Situations change all the time. No matter what situation you do, as long as you don't think you're defeated, you will overcome.
I feel, or in my experience, when a leader has a clear choice, they can make a decision. But when we are flooded by fear, or let's say we've grounded ourselves in box breathing, it's still the complexity of not even understanding all the choices. This to me is the fundamental anxiety of our time as humans leading, where our heads are the managers of our body, I guess. We're leading ourselves, we're leading our families, we're leading our communities, we're leading companies and teams. In all of those contexts, it's not so much which decision should I make, but how to think about all of the complexity to get to that. What do you have any?
For me,
Yeah.
I have a list of things that I call my non negotiables, and I put them at the forefront of my mind all the time. Uh, my wife, my family are first, no matter what. So if I have to go to my grandchildren's soccer game on the weekend, it takes priority over anything else. Uh, if my wife needs me for something, it takes priority for anything else. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Business is farther down the list. My God is higher up the list. I'm closer to God because I'm going to be going to Him closer than to anything else one of these days.
Mm-hmm.
At the age of 70, near 70, your mind changes to different priorities. You're not chasing after the rabbit all the time because you don't have to. You know, you got to question whether, working 24 hours a day 7 days a week is really in your best interest, and or whether you should take a breather now and again. And I think everybody should take a breather at least every week. They should take a day off,
Yeah.
get away from their devices, get away from everything else. They should, at a minimum, do that. Every 6 weeks, they should take a 3 day weekend. Every 3 months, they should take a week off, so that they can keep things in perspective.
Mm.
You know, sure, you need to know the news, but do you really need to know it to the extent that we do?
We're being flooded. I mean, I think this is where we started, right? We're being flooded by stimulus, positive, negative, whatever it is, and it is what people have called the attention economy, and it is becoming the like what feels like reality. But what I hear you saying, and how you're responding to my question about the complexities of, just all of the decisions we need to make, is it's very much about the context, and maybe let's call it expanding the frame of kind of your moment. When we're in the moment of decision making, when we're leaders, when a leader is leading a team and there's a crisis or there's like a decision to be made, that's their world. And it could be a reframe or expanding the frame in a more immediate sense of, okay, what about, the longer term thinking around what we're trying to achieve in the business. But you're also talking about kind of this meta frame of my life, and how to consider the rest of the picture. Are you seeing in your experience that folks are have the ability, or limited by kind of the immediacy of our, you know always on world, when regards to having this frame? Are people, when you tell them, hey, take 3 days off, take a bigger view, do they say, okay, I get it, and or they can't do it, or they don't get it? Like, what is their response when you give them that advice?
I think the smart people do. I think the smart people realize there's a limit to what you can do every day. And you know that if you do take those regular breaks, you're not going to be destroyed by the world out there.
It
If
does
you
feel like that
do,
sometimes.
if you do take that regular time to yourself, time to yourself is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Loving and caring for yourself is a very good thing. Why not do that?
Yeah. Uh, The construct of thinking through more of the picture can be, I think, frightening and maybe even perceived as naive. But I do think you make a good point. I would push back, or maybe sharpen that decision. You said, I think smart people can do it. To me, I think what you mean is folks that are grounded or aware of the possibility that being alone or taking time off is good, because I think smart implies, you have it or you don't. And I would say that you're when you're like, I think at any one moment in my life when I'm stressed, like, that's like, I'm not a smart person, right? But then when I have a deep breath and I've taken time off, then I am, more aware. That's kind of that's how I would frame this,
Well,
right? Like,
what happens when you take time off is something magical. Your mind changes. You know how you get more efficient before you go away someplace?
yes.
And when you come back, how much more efficient you are?
Hmm.
That really is a magical thing, and it's a gift you give to yourself.
Yeah, it is.
Now,
It's
you don't
amazing.
have, being smart, you don't have to have it or not. You learn it. You learn
Hmm.
it from getting knocked down all the time. It's something you have to uh, appreciate as you get knocked out all the time. And it doesn't matter if you get knocked down 9 times, as whether you get up 10.
Right. Exactly. So this moment, how you help people and how you move through this moment is what I hear is thinking through and being able to it's almost what I'm hearing is like cycles. What I'm hearing is, you're talking about breathing cycles. You're talking about 3 days, a day off. You're talking about every month or every 3 months, take a week off. To me, and you're also saying you just said, just to build my hypothesis here for a second, you're when you're about to get, while you're about to take time off, you're more efficient. When you come back, you're more efficient. And so I'm feeling like this pulsing or this cyclical nature of that's how we that's how we deal with this is we can't just be in one mode all the time. Am
You
I getting that right?
exactly, the seasons show us that. You and I live in a very seasonal environment. I live in Edmonton, Canada. That's even more seasonal. We have a beautiful summer where days are 18 hours long, maybe 20 hours long. The sun never sets. And now we're into a time of year where we're lucky. We get up when it's dark and we leave when it's dark.
Hmm.
And soon we're going to be lucky to have 4 or 5 hours of daylight at a time. We just went through a beautiful summer. We went through a beautiful fall. We went through a beautiful autumn where the leaves changed. We were blessed with the northern lights several nights in a row. We were blessed with geese that would wake us up every morning as they were making their southern trip. Now it's getting, as I say, chilly. It's not awful cold yet, but soon it will be cold. But that's when you have skating and skiing and all the winter activities that is so beautiful that you really need to uh, take advantage of. Because if you don't, you're cheating yourself. And then comes the springtime where everything is reborn. The buds come out, the leaves come out. We start seeing the appearance of a new season. And that seasonality has to come out in your mind as well.
How should we do that? How should we build? Because it takes discipline, I think is maybe the word that I would
Well, I
say.
think the word discipline should mean freedom. From discipline comes freedom. When you discipline your mind to do certain things, you are free. Like I find every day when I wake up, I look at, I say thanks for everything I have. That reshapes your mind, it reshapes your brain. I saw you on my schedule today and I said, this is going to be a magical day. This is going to be a day when I'm going to be able to make a difference. What a beautiful day that it's going to be. At the end of the day, I named 3 things I'm grateful for that happened to me. It could have been something very small. Both my wife and I work from home now. Could be that we had lunch together. Something we never did when we were rushing. Both my wife and I are doctors. My wife's a teledoctor now, and I work in my own studio in the basement. So it's a totally different life that we live. And we've been able to downsize. We only need one car between the two of us you know, but those are the important things to us. We just put up Christmas on the weekend. Very important time. Seeing Christmas through the eyes of my 3-year-old grandson is so magical. We have a music box that comes out every Christmas, and he watches it and sees the Nutcracker being played and the figurines dancing in it. Wow, isn't it magical to see the world through a 3-year-old's eyes?
Mm.
Those are the things we got to take beautiful. We just have a new granddaughter 3 months ago, and seeing that baby start to grow and start to giggle. Wow, is that magic?
So appreciation, the discipline to be able to, and I would argue that what you're doing is you have instituted some practices that are allowing you to reframe, that are allowing you to appreciate the bigger picture. Because when we get caught up in, seeing the things that are in front of our nose, it 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 blinds us to making a feeling better, making better choices, and being able to more readily face the all of the challenges and tribulations that face us all the time. And like you said, it's not going to get, it's as bad as it's been, it's as good as it's been. And it's our job to choose what we need to do in order to live a better life and make better decisions personally, familially, community wise, and business wise.
And the thing is, it's all a choice. Happiness is a choice. How we manage our lives are a choice. How we view whether it's going to be an awful day or a good day is a
Mm,
choice. One of my grandsons used to wake up every day in a blue mood. He used to curse and swear at the day that was coming out. You couldn't approach him. My daughter told him, well, you can continue to do this, or you can choose to see the world in a good light and see all the amazing things that are going to happen to you in a day. Well, when he changed his attitude, the world changed. And that's in all of us. All of us have that opportunity to see the world in a better place. All of us have the opportunity to see the world in a better place. Don't you think that's a better way to look at things? I do,
mm,
without a doubt.
mm. And I think I would argue that it helps us move through the world and be more, maybe I'm debasing that idea a little bit, but be more productive and more able to provide more by seeing the world in that way. And
I think the world is as we see it. As Viktor Frankl said, it truly is the way we see it. And the way you see it is the way it is.
yeah, that's right. We make our own realities. Well, this conversation started for business, and now we're in philosophy and stoicism. But this has been an incredible journey that we've taken in the past 20 or 30 minutes with Dr. Alan Lycka. Thank you so much for coming on Great Mondays Radio. If you want to learn more about Alan's work and what he's up to and learn more of his lessons, you can check out dralanlycka.com. Dr. Allen, and then his last name, Lycka.com. He is the doctor of happiness, and I'm so grateful that you were able to spend a little bit of time with us on Great Mondays Radio and sharing your wisdom with my community.
Thank you so much for having me.